What is up, bros? With Josh here. In today's video, we're doing a best ships for ranked season 12. Now, this season is going to be pretty unique. It's the first real ranked season we've had since the CV rework, so CVs will be more prevalent, so that will obviously change my thoughts on this. However, when I'm ranking these ships, it doesn't mean that you can't rank out in your favorite tier 10. If I rank it low, it doesn't mean that it's impossible to rank out or you can't have success in it. I just think there are certain ships that will be stronger than others, and this is how I will rank them throughout the entire video. However, let's dive in so this video isn't too long and can hopefully help you guys get rank 1 if this is your first season playing ranked or if you're going through it again. So the first class we'll go over our battleships. Now this is one that has changed the most over what I thought would be it and then what I'm actually putting in the video today. Even last night on stream we went over a list and my list will be completely different than that. I've been able to watch some streams, get some feedback, and also talk to some clanmates who have been playing ranked battles. And it seems like CVs, this is going to be the season where we see the most CVs in all seasons combined pretty much. And it seems like we're getting CVs in about 75% of the matches. Now, obviously, you can go multiple games without any CVs and go multiple games with CVs being in there. So when I'm making these lists, especially battleships, I'm going to keep in mind that you're going into seeing an aircraft carrier every game. I'm just going to go into that mentality and that will show the strengths of the ships. Now, if there are no CVs, kind of in a normal ranked season where there was maybe 1 in 20, if that, or you might go an entire season without seeing any, the strength of ships change. So just keep a heads up. I will be going over to expect seeing a CV in every game, and that's how I will break these down. So last night I put the Borgonia as first, but I think I have to stick with the Yamato. And the reason being is the size of its caliber. Now, the Yamato, the king of overpens, it's so good with this legendary mod. Yamamoto kind of neglecting all that too. It's such a good ship. I think you can't not have this first. I still think it's the king of all battleships. And the reason being is I think the cruisers will be very stagnant, bow in, slow play, and you want those big shells to kind of push through, which I think the Borgonia, even the Montana, doesn't quite have that overmatching ability that the Yamato does. I still have to put the Yamato at number 1. It's just the king of battleships in this game, and it's so incredibly strong. The second battleship that's moved up since yesterday is the Republic, and it's for the same exact reason. It has the ability to overmatch a lot of the armor at tier 10, and I'm going to put it at number 2 for this season. Not only will it have the ability to fire fast with its shells, it will have the overmatch ability, and also on top of that, can actually have a decent amount of AA. It was one of the highest AA battleships at this tier. I think number 2 is pretty solid for this ship and could be extremely strong for you if you like playing this style of ship. Fast firing, fast speed, and also big shells. The third battleship is going to be the Borgonia. Now, I know very few people are actually going to have this, but I feel like even though it has 380mm shells, there isn't really much of a ship at this tier that's going to be able to punish broadsides or mistakes as much as the Borgonia because it has the reload consumable. I think the Borgonia's ability to punch fast and often, as well as having high AA, as well as speed, this thing could be an absolute threat. I do feel like it will kind of have some trouble in certain situations since its calibers are small. However, the HE on this ship can be very good, as well as having just that reload consumable kind of carrying it to the third spot for battleships. The next battleship is going to be the Kremlin. This is the newest tier 10 battleship, and this is actually my dark horse of this season. I'm not sure how it will do because of its weakness in only having so many repairs. I can't see right now because I don't currently have it, but this ship has a very high, very high AA rating and can be very punishing on its shells, as well as having those big main battery shells. This thing could do very well. The reason that I don't put it quite in like the top 3 is because of the lack of amount of repairs that this thing has. This is one I'm kind of questionable on how it will do, but I could see it being extremely impactful on the game, or getting into those late games where it's going to just basically sit on fire because it has no more repairs. That could be a problem, so that's why I don't quite put it top tier yet. This is one I'm going to watch throughout the season. Could be extremely strong, could be middle of the pack. That's why I put it at this spot on the list. The next battleship will be the Montana. Now, sadly, I kind of have to put it lower on the list, and the main reason is the overmatching ability. I think a lot of people will have a lot of success. The Montana is extremely strong. It's going to be able to punish broadsides almost better than anything else. Obviously, the Borgonia has its reload consumable, but pumping 12 shells out is really good. However, it doesn't overmatch a lot of the armor like the other ships above do. but the Montana still will be extremely strong. AA defense will be really good. It has a high AA. You can run a full AA spec. I mean, we're at 84 rating without really specking into anything else. The Montana will be a solid battleship if that's the one you want to use. I think you'll have plenty of success. I just think the other ones might have a bit more of a better outcome, being able to not really worry about which way the other ships are focusing on. Montana, though, very strong. Could see a lot of Montana legendary modules be impactful this season, so it'll be interesting to see how it does. So the last two are pretty obvious. I think the Conqueror will still be solid. The Conqueror does just burn everything down to the ground, and I'm going to put it just above the GK. The Conqueror also has a decent AA rating and could be pretty solid there. Stealthy, a big health pool, blah, 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 but it does have a slow and long repair. This could be a bit of a problem for this ship, and I just don't see it really being impactful. Something I kind of brainstormed with some other people is potentially we'll see some Conquerors with the 457s being able to overmatch stuff. But if you're going to take the Conqueror, why not just take the Yamato? It's going to be more consistent with the legendary module. The Conqueror, though, does what it does well. I just think I would want something a tad more consistent, a tad more original, something you just can count on a tad more than the Conqueror. Conqueror's gonna be able to burn down stuff. I just find this to be a very cruiser focused season, and I would rather just have a cruiser dunking ship like the Yamato or maybe the Kreml, the Republic, something like that. So the Conqueror is going to be at near the bottom of the list. And sadly, last but not least, for the battleships, I got to put one of my favorite ones up there. This is a fantastic ship for randoms, but I just see it not being the most effective for ranked. Again, you could see potentially the bigger caliber shells, but the GK, although being so much fun to play, such a good random battleship, I got to put it at the bottom. There in the Conqueror, I think both those two, it just doesn't bring much else to the table that the other ships do. So its strengths really aren't strengths when it comes to the rank battles, that being secondaries and sonar, stuff like that. Tends to be not really used, especially if it's going to be a CV season. A lot of DDs are going to have trouble playing, so a lot of the secondary spec stuff is going to be not as strong. I would think a team with 2 Yamatos or 2 Kremls or 2 Republics versus a team with 2 GKs might have a disadvantage. We will see, though. I could see some people using the GK and being kind of successful, but it seems to me that I would want something that's just a tad better at doing the job in a 7v7 scenario. Speaking of DDs, let's dive into those and let's go over which ones I think might be the best this season. And I think basically two are going to stand out, and the rest of them are going to be much lower than everything else. And the top 2 I'm going to go with are the Grozavoy as well as the Gearing. Main reason being those are the 2 with AA consumables, and as well as those are 2 with relatively high AA ratings. The Z52 also has 1, but 10.5 kilometer torps. You're going to get outspotted by a lot of stuff, and just not as effective as those 2. It's going to be a sad destroyer season. I'm always a DD fan. I think if you are going to play or want to play a DD, Gearing or Grozavoy will be the top 2. I could potentially even see some Shimakaze play out of some people, as well as some Daring. But other than that, I just don't think mini destroyers are going to be viable. You will see that a lot of the cruisers I am picking are going to be radar cruisers as the top ones. So not only are you going to have to deal with CVs, as well as just a lot of radar ships. So if you are looking to play a DD, I would go with either Gearing with the 16.5 kilometer torps. I don't think you're going to really need the legendary module if you don't have it. 16.5 kilometer torps, as well as the Gearing, just being a really strong ship, high AA. You can actually clear out a lot of planes in the sky. Those are going to be the top 2. After that, there's a big gap, and then maybe Shimakaze Daring potentially in there, throwing up a bit of a mix, but you're going to be free food for a CV if it finds you, and it's going to be looking for you, as well as radar ships. And then after that, I think the rest of the DDs, so that would leave the Harugumo, the Khabarovsk, the Z52, as well as the sadly nerfed to hell Yu Yang, I think won't be able to quite pull their weight compared to the other destroyers. I feel like this is going to be a very focused cruiser season. It seems like the breakdown I'm seeing the most is 1 aircraft carrier, 1 or 2 battleships, 3 or 4 cruisers, and then 1 DD. So going into those with a weak destroyer, that will give your team a disadvantage. And really, if you are found, you're going to want something that can kind of defend itself, like a Gearing or a Grozavoy. It's kind of sad. I love playing DDs in ranked. I think they're a lot of fun. They can have a big impact on the game. This season is going to be a tough season for destroyers because CVs in a 7v7 are going to be so impactful, basically your counter, and on top of that you have to deal with lots of radar ships as well. Destroyers, a pretty sad class in my opinion. I hope that maybe this opens up and is a bit more viable in the season, but I just feel like with the CVs in the sky, it's going to be very tough to have a big impact on the game and really have a tough time getting much out when it comes to this specific class. So here we have the cruisers, and I think this is going to be a big cruiser season. We haven't really seen a big cruiser season since the tier 7 season, many seasons ago. A lot of these seasons are focused on destroyers. I think this is going to be a big cruiser season, and I think right here what we see the Des Moines, this even changed from yesterday too. I think the Des Moines is going to be the most impactful cruiser, even if people were watching the stream yesterday. The DM, with the DM Legendary module, it gives you so much freedom, ability to open water, ability to just have a big impact on the game. Now, the radar, one of the biggest things I talked about yesterday was potentially having the Salem be very impactful, and so comparing these two is Salem is going to have the bigger heal, DM is going to have the Legendary module, and I just think the Legendary module is going to be better. I just think overall it's just going to be a better ship. The radar difference I don't think will really mean that much because I feel like DDs are going to be few and far between, maybe one a game. So that 9.9 is nice with the 10 kilometer, but the 8.5 I think will still be usable. But the DM's Legendary module, I think, will put this over the top and really have just a solid ship. DM is by far the ship I have seen most in the cruiser selection. It's just so good. Not only does it have high AA if you spec into it, it's just a good, solid overall ship. High damage output, good radar, good AA, kind of good everything. It's just a good, well-rounded ship. It's really a ship that stood the test of time. I think this is going to be the prime cruiser this season, and in my opinion, the strongest by far. The next ship I think is going to kind of shine is the Worcester, the light USN cruiser. And this thing, again, has AA, high AA if you really spec into it. High AA, radar, it has everything kind of going for it, and just a well-rounded ship. Although I don't think it has as much freedom as the Des Moines, I feel like the Worcester will just be so impactful. There's nothing CVs are going to really be able to do if this thing is spec'd into AA. It's going to be able to lock down an entire area, and really, if you're into a good spot, things are going to have to push into a lot of damage to try to kill you. So Worcester, I think, will be a very solid pick. Not quite as good as the DM because that Legendary module puts it above the rest, but Worcester, I think, will be extremely solid. I think you're starting to see a pattern here. At third, I put the Salem, and the reason, again, is just basically a DM. Still very strong, high AA rating, and it has that heal. The Salem is extremely strong and will be very impactful. Being able to hold down there, have a big health pool, and as well as pumping out tons and tons of damage. Not quite as strong as the DM with the Legendary module, but I still think it will have a solid choice. If you don't have the Salem, that's fine. I'm not saying go out and buy it, but I think this will be pretty dang strong. It's just a weaker DM, and the DM is very strong. So Salem, I think, will be a solid choice if you're interested in playing that. I think we'll be able to defend itself against planes in a lot of spots, as well as just be impactful with pumping out tons of damage, as well as tanking some if you need to with that extra boosted heal. Probably one of the hottest cruisers out there right now, the Henry, is going to be my next choice. This thing with inertia fuse is going to be so good. It's going to be extremely strong, and the ability for it to still pump out damage. However, though, there is starting to be some downsides, as I will go over with these next few ships, is the Henry tends to play pretty well on a flank, and when there's CVs, a flank tends to get focused because you're isolated. So although the ship does have a lot of potential output on DPM and damage with that reload booster getting on the flank, it is going to have a weakness with CVs focusing it and knocking out, you know, all of its life, but it does have the ability to defend itself with AA if you spec into that, which I do highly recommend going into all of these. So this could be very impactful. I think the ship is still really good, but I don't think it's going to be quite as strong as some of the other ones I showed earlier. But out of all the other ones that aren't the campy playstyle, I think the Henry will obviously be the strongest. This thing is just extremely good. The damage output is very high, as well as that reload booster being really strong. So the Kremlin is going to be our big question mark for battleships, and the Minotaur is going to be our big question mark for cruisers. I could see this thing potentially being very good in a lot of situations, not only being very high AA, you're going to shut down entire sections of maps, and be able to defend stuff that maybe has lower AA, like your battleships, like your Yamatos. But the Minotaur could be a great tool to have on your team. However, with radar, you could be very strong, but with a lack of DDs, I could see this losing some situations here. But the potential of going radar or going smoke could be pretty good if you are a skilled player. I think this will maybe be one of the hardest ships to play, so if you want something a tad easier and a tad, this is going to be a tough one to play very successfully. But I think the players that are good enough to do it could have a good season in this ship. Being high AA, basically being able to knock out planes all the time, very consistent. The Minotaur could be that specific role, although I don't think it would be as easy to play as some of the ships I have said prior. This is going to be very much waiting, and this is going to be the DD of the season, I really think. So lots of radar. We could, maybe not lots, but we could see some radar Minotaurs having a great impact, going against DDs and really taking those out, and then being the DD for the rest of the game. So radar minnows could see a spot in this, although not the easiest to play, but could have a very high impact on the outcome of the game. These next few are a little tough for me because I feel like there's just such a big gap to getting to these, but I think I can't not have the Stalingrad be better than a few ships. With its big shells, the 305s, it will continue to punch ships in the face and could potentially tank a lot of damage. However, with CVs, if you are seeing a Stalingrad, you are licking your lips and seeing the farm, going out there and pumping out a lot of damage. However, as we all know, the Stalingrad does have a great upside with its ability to pump out lots of damage, as well as tanking lots of damage, which you might need to do. However, this thing definitely, and it may not even actually be at this point on my list, I just think I have to throw it up there. Henrys are going to look at this with inertia fuse and just say, okay, this is an easy ship to kind of take down. I've been seeing a few so far, but not really having the impact as you would see in maybe some of the past seasons. The Stalingrad could definitely be an impactful ship, however, not as strong as some of the ships we talked about prior. I think that kind of stagnant Russian cruiser won't be as strong as you see on the bottom of the list. You're both going to have Stalingrad as well as the Moskva. Good radar, though. You will have AA if you need to use it, but you are a big ship that if you are playing against a Hakuryu, you are going to have some trouble, and they are going to farm the ever-living shit out of you with AP bombs, and there's not much you can really do. These three, both the Stalingrad, the Hindenburg, and the Moskva, could kind of all go in the same area. It's going to be kind of about the playstyle here. I think they're all pretty strong at what they do, but not as strong as the rest of the ships. You have certain role-specific ships like the Minotaur, pretty consistent ships like the DM, Henry, Salem, stuff like that. These ones are going to be weaker than those, but strong if you like to play them, I guess. Hindenburg and Moskva, I think, are both going to be pretty solid, but bottom tier when it comes to this. And the meaning is they just won't do the jobs as well as other ships. The Hindenburg, I think, will be a pretty decent damage farmer, but if you want to be a damage farmer, you might as well run the Henry because it's just going to do a better job. However, within 6 kilometers, the Hindenburg is a great threat, and you could easily use this. You see a Hindenburg every once in a while, but again, the AA, you could get some trouble with the CV farming you, and you tend to kind of stick with some other people, although that German AP is very, very strong. Same with the Moskva, extremely high concealment, or extremely high concealment, so you're detected from a long ways away. Kind of with the Stalingrad, kind of hard to hide, and you could easily get farmed by Henrys. So if you're going to go with kind of the stagnant play or damage farming play as any of these ships bring to the table, you might as well take some other stuff. DM's going to be more flexible. Worcester's going to be a bit more of a campy ship, but it's going to do it better. And then you have ships like the Henry. If you want to be a damage dealing ship, kind of like the Hindenburg, you might as well just take the Henry. But if you have these, I think you could still have some success. You're just not going to be quite as strong if you put the same player in a Moskva versus the same player in a Henry. Obviously, the Henry is just going to be able to do nearly everything better. And of course, Henrys are going to counter the Moskva and the Stalingrad. Hindenburg, though, I love this ship. I would love to use it, but I just don't think it's going to be able to do enough quick enough to really make that big of an impact on the game. You can't really get that close. You're kind of this long-range ship. So when they're capping caps with their Worcester and Salems and DMs and pushing out destroyers, you're hoping something spots something for you so you can farm it from afar. Yes, both the Moskva and the Stalingrad have their long-range radars, but I don't think that's going to be as strong because, obviously, I think DDs are going to be kind of a few and far between class. I think it's mainly going to be cruisers, battleships, CVs, and everything else will kind of be, well, destroyers will kind of be left in the dust. So let's kind of get an F in chat for one of my favorite cruisers of all time, which has kind of been, I wouldn't want to say forgotten, but the whole thing about the Zhao is stealthy, the Zhao takes time to set up, and then once the Zhao sets up and uses its stealth, it can be very punishing. If you take all of that, it basically says this is a slow ship that can be extremely effective if it's never spotted, and then surprise you with a broadside depth strike. However, CVs don't let things go unspotted. So that's going to be the problem. You have ships that are going to be able to counter you and show off where you're hiding very quickly. The Zal, although an extremely strong ship, especially in randoms too, it's just going to have a disadvantage because it's going to take long to set up, and your setup's going to be kind of ruined by CVs and by planes. You're just not going to be able to stay dark, and you'll end up getting farmed by the Henry, by the DMs, all this kind of stuff. It's going to be a tough season for the Zhao. I sadly have to put it at the bottom of the list. I just think by the time you finally get something set up, you could have done so much more with so many other ships. So I kind of have the USNs and the Henry at the top of tier. I kind of have this middle tier of Minnow, Moskva, Hindenburg, even the Minnow maybe on the top end of that tier. And then kind of just have the Zhao at the bottom. It's sad to say it. I love this ship. I just think it's going to be one of the weaker ships of this. And obviously if it's isolated, CVs are going to work it down, and there's not much it can really do. So cruisers are going to be the go-to class this season, in my opinion. And I feel like if you like playing cruisers, this is definitely going to be your season to play ranked. Last but not least, we have everyone's favorite class, and this is the CVs. So with the CV rework, it's basically going to bring in tons of CVs into the queue. You would go entire ranked seasons without ever seeing people in queue for playing CVs, or if you did, you could just dodge them and wait for the queue to go and then get into a game that doesn't have them. So CVs are, in my opinion, going to be in about 75% of the games. Every 3 or 4 would be pretty safe. Obviously depends on your bracket and what time you're playing, but they're definitely going to be there, and so you want to play ships that do it. So I went into this season kind of doing my notes, and I kind of think the hack might be the secret winner of CVs this season because of the AP bombs, being able to just blast away cruisers. You know, you're going to be looking for stuff like that. However, I kind of just think the Midway will be the easiest choice. It's just so, I wouldn't say brain dead, but the ability that it's just so consistent. The Midway is very strong, as is the Hercule. I think from what I've seen so far, everyone's playing the Midway pretty much, with the hack being the second most, and I haven't seen an Audacious yet. So CVs are going to be, in my opinion, Midway, hack, and then a distant third Audacious. The Royal Navy aircraft carrier, as you see, I don't even have it yet. I think those are just the strengths of those CVs in general, and in this 7v7 I think they will all do pretty well, but I think that'll be the breakdown of those. I want to think the hack will be a tad stronger because those AP bombs are brutal against cruisers. However, we all know that the Midway's bombs are super strong too. So out of the two, I would probably go with Midway. And but if you have the hack and not the Midway, I think you still be very successful. And Audacious, I just think is going to be, I just think it's weaker than both of these, although not weak still. So that's kind of the breakdown of all the classes. I know this is probably a long video. I will do timestamps for you guys so you guys can check them all out. But I think this is going to be a tough season. It's going to be cruiser heavy, lots of AA ships. So lots of AA ships means lots of radar. Lots of radar means tough for destroyers. CVs are going to be there, which means tough for destroyers. It's going to be a cruiser season, very few DDs, a couple battleships here and there. And then it's going to be pretty slow with all of a sudden exciting turns, and it'll be ranked season. But anyways, guys, hope this video helps you out. Again, this is just my opinion on what I've seen so far and what I think will end up being the meta of this season. Even if I ranked your ship that you're using low, it does not mean that you can't have great success and have a lot of fun this season. If you enjoy the Zhao, or you enjoy whatever destroyer I said would be bad or weaker or battleship, and you go out there and have an awesome season, by all means, go do it. You could take any destroyer, any battleship, any cruiser, and be successful. And most importantly, find ships you enjoy playing. If I talked about ships that you don't like to play, don't play them. Because if you are playing a game mode like ranked that is very salty and very hostile environment, and you are playing ships you already don't like, you're going to hate it. So most importantly, my biggest tips for ranked battles every season is find a ship you enjoy to play and stick with that ship. Don't bounce around to multiple ships. You want to know, especially with like a Des Moines, if you've never played it and you're playing it and you just got the legendary mod, get to know a ship, get to know what it turns, get to know how the firing angles, get to know everything. Master a ship that you enjoy to play. If you're bouncing around from the Des Moines to the Mosca to the Yamato to the Repub to a Haragumo, you're going to get completely messed up, because in ranked you want to be able to do as well as you can, because one miss salvo here, one hit salvo there can change an entire game. You want to master one ship. So just kind of get that. That's my biggest thing. What I see is there's almost a direct correlation between people playing lots of ships and lower win rates. So find a ship you enjoy to play, get out there and play it. And then I always do a rule: if you lose 3 games in a row, just take a break. Go play something else or play some random battles and come back, because if you play tilted, you will not be playing at your best. So anyways, guys, get out there, play some ranked, have some fun, get some steel, get some rewards, and hopefully you can get to rank 1 this season, especially if it's your first time. Good luck, everyone. Hopefully see you out there. We'll be doing all of our games live on twitch.tv. Come check us out. Put a link down below. We'll be playing all of our ranked battles there, so it should be a lot of fun. But anyways, guys, hope this video helps you out. But that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.